Hey folks, welcome to another live stream. I am done with standard traditional allopathic medicine, whatever you want to call it. Why do I say that? I mean, I should say that this is not a position I've arrived at lightly, and this is not a position I've arrived at um, all of a sudden. This is a long time coming. Why is it a long time coming? It's a long time coming. Like if I give my own history and the history of my family, um, I first got diagnosed with disease when I was a teenager. Even before that, I got diagnosed with vitiligo. Then I got diagnosed with asthma. Allergies were there. Of course, in my later in life, things just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was told that all these things are chronic and degenerative, and that they can't be reversed, right? And when I did my own study, I was able to reverse these within a few weeks, right? And up in the initial phases, I thought I was kind of I don't know if I was a freak, but I just thought people didn't know. I just thought what I've discovered is something new. And because people don't know what I've learned, then, let me just teach people and everything will be cool. I didn't realize it was going to be an uphill battle in many ways to do what I'm currently doing, which is to help hundreds of people heal their chronic disease, heart disease, autoimmune, and so on, right? I didn't know it was going to be such a battle. I just thought, well, maybe people don't know, what I figured out, which was pretty straightforward and based on basic principles of what it means to be a human, right? But what's happened in recent years is that I find people are doubling down. If people are curious, when you hear about someone reversing their autoimmune disease or whatever it is, if you're curious, and of course I hear these stories every single day, as a medical practitioner, if I were a doctor, I would be curious. I'd be like, how the hell did you do that? I was told this is not, even my asthma, when my asthma went away, here's an inhaler from 2018. I keep these by my desk just to show that I haven't had a renewal on the prescription since 2018. This is how many I had just in that year. Right? I had several of these things, right? I had so many, right? And now I haven't used one since that time. Right? So if I was the doctor and someone was telling that to me, I'd be curious, like why didn't that happen? But that's not what I see from the doctors that I work with. Now, there's some exceptions. I have a doctor who's my client. In fact, I hope to be seeing him Monday. We can have this chat maybe. But it's not what I see from the doctors in my world or in my clients' world. What I see is a kind of doubling down. What I see is kind of a reliance on information which is not exactly correct. What do I mean by that? I mean there's a quote unquote need to see placebo, controlled, double-blinded studies, et cetera, and not everything lends itself to that methodology. That methodology is a very unique methodology that has come out of a specific history, a specific scientific history that has its intellectual roots in Europe, right? Not to say that there's anything wrong or right with that, but just to say that there are many knowledge systems in China, in India, in Africa, elsewhere, which were able to cure many people without using those same tools, right? Now, when I say this stuff, people will be like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Are you in favor of rain dances and witchcraft?" No, not really. But even if you look at Western allopathic medicine, a lot of those tools, a lot of those medicines, have actually come from traditional Indian medicine or traditional Chinese medicine or some kind of herbs, right? Herbs that are found on Easter Island or in France or whatever it may be, right? So, these worlds were never completely separate. But for me, if I have to choose between, well, I don't have to choose. I mean, the point is that we're living in a world with a lot of these things, and I think the first thing to do is just to ask, what is a proper human lifestyle? What is a proper human diet? And am I doing that in this world that is full of electromagnetic currents and lack of sunlight and lack of proper nutrition and so on? Am I at least getting what my ancestors got? And then maybe if I'm still sick after that, then I have to look into medication, supplementation, et cetera, et cetera. There are lots of tools you can use. Again, I'm not dogmatic. I'm not religious about this. If you're getting benefit from whatever it is, taking antibiotics, for example, would be something that I think is appropriate in certain circumstances and necessary in certain circumstances and life-saving in certain circumstances, then go ahead and do it, right? But you should know that all of those interventions come with a cost. And so for me, where I am right now, my faith in the traditional medical system is at an all-time low. I think that for myself and my clients, if we can fix and by the way, this isn't just with medicines. I'm feeling this way about supplements. I'm feeling this way about herbs. I'm feeling this way even about some traditional, herbal, vegetable kind of foods, which I think probably do have a role, but we overuse them a lot, right? So, for example, we think of lemon juice as healing and healthy, and I think in certain circumstances it is. But if you're having lemon juice every single day, I'm not sure that's a good thing. And lemon juice has antibiotic properties. It has a little bit of oxalates and other things in it. It has a little bit of lectins, I think, in it as well. Like, again, I'm not sure if these things are super important for the average person, but why would you take it every day when you don't have to, right? So that's where I'm coming from right now, and it's just been the case that I've seen person after person failed by the medical establishment, and I've seen very very few helped. The people who are helped, and there are some, people who have a bypass surgery or they get a stent put in or they get on medications for their autoimmune, very strong medications for their autoimmune, or they are able to get rid of cancer through a combination of radiation and chemotherapy and all the rest of it. Yeah, all that I've seen all of that, but the problem is usually the disease comes back and it comes back worse. Whether it comes back in a year or 5 years or 10 years, I can't tell you, but that's just how it works. And I've written articles on why in chemotherapy, the way it's currently administered, is actually designed to make matters worse, right? That's a slightly different discussion, and that's a critique of the mainstream medicine. But that's the point. The point is that I can really, as someone who's really done a lot of research in this, I can critique mainstream medicine till the cows come home. I can tell you how almost any study is basically invalid. And where that leaves us again is like, what is the default diet for humans? What is the default lifestyle for humans? And are you doing that? Are you applying all the lessons from our history to yourself, from our pre-colonial history, if you're from one of us colonized peoples, or even your pre-agricultural history, whatever that is, because agriculture was only a few thousand years ago, right? So thinking about what it means to live an ancestral human lifestyle, and of course, we're not going to be able to apply those lessons 100%, but we can apply some of them in certain contexts, right? And if you're doing the best you can and you're still sick, well, that's when I think modern medicine, quote unquote, modern medicine may play a role in certain circumstances. That's where I think traditional medicine can definitely play a role. There are tools to be learned from traditional Chinese medicine. There are things to be learned from traditional Indian medicine. There are things to be learned from traditional African medicines. And those lessons, again, they play a role. But the role is always to get you back to default, to get you back to the starting point. And the starting point, in my opinion, you're going to have the best starting point if you are doing the ancestrally appropriate things. If you're eating an ancestrally appropriate human diet. Today I was listening with a very good podcast. In fact, I will review her book. Anita, I'm forgetting her surname. Sharma, I think her name was. She's one of the co-authors of 3 co-authors who wrote a book called Why Vegans Have Smaller Brains. And I thought she had some really brilliant things to say in this podcast. So it's so brilliant that although I sort of know most of the stuff that's in her book because I've researched similarly, I think I'm going to go out and read that book now because it was such a brilliant take. But her thing was, look, if you look at the fatty acid profile of brains of ruminant animals and elephants and other things like that early humans would have been eating, those have the best profile in terms of omega-3s and so on that we're told you get from fish, etc. You can get it from fish, and I'm not saying don't eat fish. Fish is fine. But we have to understand that the human brain evolved in part because we were eating the brains of large animals, right? And scavenging those brains 4 million years ago, our ancestors were, right? It's a slightly different discussion, but it's related to this question about what is the proper ancestral human diet. And then once you're doing that, if you're completely dialed in, if you've got everything 100% right, and you're still suffering, because some of us will still be suffering, because there are lots of things going on, then, let's have a chat. I mean, I love to, just as an aside, those are the cases I really love. If you come to me and you're not doing things right, that's fine. I can almost always, I can get you like 90% of the way there just with a few tweaks. So in some ways that's more, I don't know if it's more satisfying, but it's like I get quick rewards. As a coach, I can easily help you to get those things. But the people who are still trying to dial in that last 10% and really frustrated and struggling and trying to troubleshoot, that's where I think my problem solving skills really shine. Because I can help people find relief who've tried everything in the book, both in the traditional medicine and in non-traditional medicine, and still haven't been able to find relief. So anyway, that's my take. I'm really done with the standard medical system. I really don't think it has much to offer. I think it's designed to make people sicker. And to be honest, this is not a place I ever thought I would be. Because I come from a family with a lot of doctors. I have some of my best friends are doctors. And it sort of pains me to say this is where the profession has ended up. We're just, they're just drug pushers. They're just drug pushers who are pushing drugs that are not even very effective. Back, 100 years ago when they were pushing cocaine and morphine, at least those were drugs that actually had a very strong effect, and people would get relief. When Marx talked about the opiate of the masses, opium in Marx's day 150 years ago was like a miracle drug. It cured pain, cured all kinds of things, right? We don't have, the drugs that we're pushing today, whatever you want to talk about. The side effects are serious, or the benefits are too small. The risk benefit is just not there, right? So anyway, some food for thought. Let me know below. Are you done with medicine as well? Am I wrong? Let me know what you think. Talk to you in the next one.